Hello there, healthcare humans. Thank you so much for coming back for another episode of The Other Human in the Room. I'm super excited to have a lovely repeat guest to the podcast who I hope will just repeat be in each other's lives and podcast lives in particular for years to come. But in case this is your very first episode, probably it's a good idea to start by having you introduce yourself, Jamie. So who are you and why are you here?
Who am I? you know,
Big question.
Not the easiest question to answer anymore because I genuinely don't know. No. Um, who am I and why am I here? Well, my name is Jamie Lee Finch. I am here because I adore you, first and foremost. And in addition to that, I'm here because we have become collaborators together on multiple currently existing and soon to exist projects and endeavors. I'm so excited about all of those, including one that we will discuss today. But who I am, again, large question. Maybe I'll just talk about a little bit about what I do currently instead of who I am.
Sure. Let's hear.
So I'm a facilitator. I'm an embodiment coach. I've been a facilitator for 7 years now. In addition to that, I am finishing up, I'm in my very last quarter of massage therapy school. So I am a soon to be licensed massage therapist. And really, I mean, the core, what binds those two expressions of my work in the world together is just that I am a person who is extraordinarily obsessed with bodies. I am obsessed with the goodness and wisdom of our bodies, their knowing, their functionality, their language, their compassion. I think there's so much to know about bodies that largely we have hidden from ourselves. About the way our bodies are wanting to partner with us in the endeavor of life and our ability to thrive. And I think that we're at a really exciting moment in human history right now where people are starting to become a little bit more awake to what we would call the wisdom of our bodies and what I would call the personification, the personified, the animate living reality of our bodies, the personality of our bodies, as opposed to conceptualizing of our bodies as machines or inanimate objects. And that's what I do. I teach a methodology I created called personified embodiment for a living. And I teach that in many different expressions and ways, both online course, group facilitation, one-on-one facilitation, and also now in my sometimes wordless, sometimes not wordless, hands-on body work as well, which is becoming my favorite thing and becoming my main thing. And I love it. So that's what I do.
That's what you do. I love it
Mm-hmm.
so much. And so to say right up front, and I'll remember to say it again, but I wanted to say it up front. One of the expressions of how we are going to celebrate bodies together is that by popular demand, we're bringing back a workshop that we first co-hosted in the fall called Body to Body Medicine, where we're exploring the intersection of folks who work in healthcare and the idea that those folks have bodies and also are taking care of other bodies. And though that sounds very basic, why does that sound like a new, fresh concept? And
Yeah.
sort of exploring that. And I had so much fun the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And the folks that showed up, which was a really cool mix of physicians and therapists and people who are just have bodies and are interested.
And just
Um,
navigate the healthcare system themselves as individuals, which is everybody,
Literally
everyone, anyone
everybody.
can come to this. Yeah.
Anybody can come to this, and in particular those who hold a role of caring for other bodies.
Mm-hmm.
It's specifically to hold space for them
Yeah.
in terms
Yeah.
of often we have been taught in the process of learning how to care for other bodies, we've been taught and conditioned to forget that we have bodies. And
Mm-hmm.
what if
Mm-hmm.
we didn't have to do that? What actually would be beneficial about remembering that we have bodies, and
Yeah.
how would that actually improve our experience of our work, as well as make our work more effective? And
Mm-hmm.
so that's what we're exploring on Monday, April 29th at
Mm-hmm.
7:30 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 p.m. Central Time. The link will be in the show notes. And so that's one of the reasons we're having this conversation today, is to invite you all to join a live version of this conversation where you get to participate. But the
Mm-hmm.
other reason I thought it would be fun to also have this podcast now is, like you said, you're almost finishing up massage therapy school. And it's been so cool. Like, so my journey is that I started by getting very disembodied for many reasons in my life, and then becoming a physician.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, recently, and especially as a client of yours, like kind of reconnecting with my body. And your journey is, well, I won't speak to your journey, but what I've heard of your journey is you sort of in some ways first reconnected with your body
Mm-hmm.
and then decided to enter the more formal, official, according to society, realm of a registered healthcare human.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I just want to hear all about it. Like, how has that been? Even like, what made you decide to do it? And what's the process been like for you?
Yeah. That's a great way to put it. I like that. I hadn't realized that about us, that we have this kind of coming from, yeah, we're both doing the same thing with our hands. No one can see. We have this
It's a
like, oh,
crisscross
it's a
motion.
crisscross motion. Yeah. And I love that for us. Well, and I especially love that for us for our future creative endeavors together, because it is going to provide for these, I won't call them alternative perspectives, these just like, different perspectives that have literally and figuratively met in the middle of our experiences. But yeah, my journey. So you're right. I mean, that perspective is correct, that my journey was very much moving from this being a personal journey of reconnecting to my body, and then receiving certifications to be able to like hold space and facilitate for kind of the verbal coaching, verbal facilitation of people's coming back into reconnection with their body, and then realizing that what was most in integrity for me and what I most wanted and would allow me to be of greatest service to other people would be to go get some more training. And specifically for me, it wasn't just go get some more training. In fact, I was thinking about this last night while I was in class. I chose the specific school I chose because of the specific people who teach there and the way they teach. And the thought I had last night while I was sitting in my law and ethics class was that I I didn't just decide to enroll in a school and get some more training, build some more skills. I decided to step into a lineage of hands-on body work. It's one of the oldest healing lineages that exists. The idea of touch as medicine, touch as a modality. And I didn't just decide to enter into a lineage. I now am a person who will be, from this moment on for the rest of my life, permanently resourced with elders. And that is the biggest thing, because some of the teachers, facilitators in my school, an ethic they hold is, as you're starting out in this profession, you're going to encounter things that are going to maybe confuse you. You won't know what to do. Your best resource are your relationships, and we are those relationships for you. So they've said point blank, like, if you encounter X, Y, and Z or anything that you might not know what to do, call us. And it just hit me last night where I'm just like, oh my gosh, I have these people who have been in practice of the thing I'm doing, I'm just starting to do. I have these people who have been in this practice for, some of them, 3 to 4 decades, and they're saying, call me when you need anything. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I did, like, to go from, and I'm not knocking it, but to go from like receiving a certification from an online coaching thing, to it just, I really feel like, reviving the lineage based work, reviving the, elder to apprentice, or apprentice to elder pipeline. Like, that is becoming very important to me. And I am very much interested in becoming an elder myself in this lineage. But just to realize that I have it now is just so enormous, so transformative. And and I would say like the way that this journey came about for me, how I got to a point of realizing that I wanted to pivot or wanted to kind of build on what I was already doing and create greater degrees of service that I could offer to people came from my own burnout. it came from uh, it came from the burnout of my own success, which is funny. What I was doing was working so well that I did not know how to take care of myself in doing it. My I didn't decide on a career pivot because it wasn't working. I decided on a career pivot because it was working so intensely that I didn't know how to take care of myself while trying to do it. And I hit a wall. So I had been facilitating quite successfully with an overabundant practice and a very long waiting list for a number of years. And then I decided to create an online course. And then I released the course. And in releasing the course, I made a whole bunch of money at one time, which allowed me to go, okay, I need to do nothing for a little while. And it was in that space of, okay, I need to do nothing for a little while, that ended up being a 15-month long sabbatical, that my body started telling me what she most needed was for me to iron out my relationship to overwork for the sake of myself first and foremost, and to also get really clear on what it is I actually wanted based on how it is I actually wanted to feel in my life. Because I was enjoying being able to facilitate, breakthroughs and et cetera for people in verbal facilitation. But my life did not feel the way that I really wanted and needed it to feel. How I wanted and needed my life to feel looked very different from the life I would have had to figure out how to keep living in order to be like an online coach, content creator person. The life I wanted was much slower and quieter. And and also the longer I did my job of body support in the coaching space, I fell deeper and deeper in love with bodies. So I wanted to learn how to work closer up with bodies. I'm exceptionally gifted at what I do in facilitation, even more so now after having this hands-on training, which we'll talk about. But it was precisely because I was succeeding that I was like, this can't be it. This can't be all it is. I need to figure out how to do something that again is of greater service and costs me less to do, like energetically is less energetically expensive for my body. Like it's so ironic. I was an embodiment facilitator who started dropping out of integrity and caring for her own body. But it was all very purposeful, all very meaningful. So during that sabbatical, I got really clear on a lot of things within myself. And the thing that just kept coming through was I want to be a body worker. I feel like everything in my life is actually leading to this point of this apprenticeship, of this learning, of this lineage. And man, it is, I can't tell you the amount of times that like immediately post session with someone on my table, I've just had this overwhelming sense of this is the best decision I have ever made in my life. So that's I hope an answer to your question of how I got to here. It's a long way of saying my body got me to here. My body calling me into integrity and lovingly getting loud about what was absolutely unsustainable for my rhythms and my pace and the way I thought I needed to move in the world to be successful. It was her going, no, there's something better than this, something more aligned than this, and we need to quiet down for a little while in order to find it.
One thing I think that's so fascinating about that journey for you. First of all, I wrote down the phrase iron out relationship to overwork. That's
Mm-hmm.
like, put that as a title of a book or something.
Mm-hmm.
I really
Great. I'll tell my agent. We'll write it. We'll put it in the
like,
running.
yeah, man, same. And that's our relationship to overwork.
Yeah.
And one thing I think is really fascinating, again, because we were doing the Chrissy Crossy, like certainly
Mm-hmm.
not just myself, but a lot of people I see that are like work in hands-on healthcare of a sort.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Often when they discover the online coaching world, they think
Mm-hmm.
that's my ticket to
Yeah.
escaping overwork. And now
Totally.
I will be, I don't think it's like, yay, it's because I'll be at a distance with people, but you think there'll be more ways to scale it or whatever, all the
Mm-hmm.
terms that
Mm-hmm.
in part definitely just marketing from people who want to sell you course
Coaches
software.
coaching coaches on how to become coaches who coach
Yeah,
coaches.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
there's
Sure.
a
Yeah.
bit of that. Um, and so, and I do think it's interesting. The thing that I relate to is that there was a point during the pandemic where we were very, very virtual. And there
Yeah.
was something about it that at first was like kind of thrilling, where it's like,
Uh-huh.
I'm in my pajamas. And it felt like less energy expenditure because I wasn't moving from room to room and I was
Mm-hmm.
like cozy at home. But then, like, shifting back to in person, even though it was like kind of tricky and we were all
Yeah.
wearing masks and it was kind of funky, but like sharing space with people, it's a different kind of energy expenditure. It has an energy cost, of course, because you're like
Sure.
moving around.
Yeah.
But like the energy you gain from sharing physical space,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't touch my patients that much. It depends, though. Like I do like procedure clinic where I like cut moles out of people, so I'm like
Ooh.
with sharing space with them longer, chatting about whatever, and then physically touching them a little bit more, though, you know, in a way they're not that relaxed.
Yeah, it's
It's
very
different
different.
than yours. Different than
Yeah.
yours. But I'm like trying to relate. So I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
that again has a different quality to it of just like being with their
Yeah.
body
Yes.
that I'm extrapolating. I just would love to hear you share your, I guess, body's experience
Mm-hmm.
of sort of that virtual versus in person, and what kind of energy expenditure versus nourishment you know that you
Mm-hmm.
get from those two
Yeah.
worlds.
Yeah. Well, the nourishment I receive from the virtual now, night and day difference from the, I'll maybe say, nourishment I wasn't previously receiving slash energy I was expending and going into a deficit. And honestly, Joan, that has less to do with the virtual of it all and more to do with the state of my own nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
And the state of my own nervous system creating a story in my mind that told me I needed to accomplish, do, or create something inside of a session, whether it was, you know, virtual or in person. I used to do like in person coaching as well with anyone who was in the town that I lived in. And then, like you said, with COVID, everything switched to virtual, and then we kind of stayed there. And I do think that is an enormous reason why I ultimately burned out. I've got a whole separate workshop that I teach on that I will actually be co-teaching with my social media director, who is also your your person now too. We love it. Just a workshop about like the impact of social media and tech on our bodies, like the somatic cost of just the way we're starting to live life with a greater orientation to these devices. So that was part of it. And just, it feels important to me to just name and take the total self-responsibility and self-ownership over the fact that I was not keeping my internal world very well. And how you do anything is how you do everything. And so I was showing up to any expression of my facilitation in a either, you know, along a spectrum of dysregulation within my own body. And that was causing me to not really be able to drop into being and staying fully present with the person that I was holding space with. Um, I do think it is way easier to drop into full presence in space holding when you are body to body, body with body. And that can also, depending on what your internal world is like, body to body can also be a something that signals to your unconscious body mind some sort of dysregulated response. So either going into upregulation, fight, flight, you know, sometimes freeze belongs in that category too, or the down regulation of like freeze, spawn, collapse, because body to body is hard. Body to body is sensitive. Body to body is vulnerable. This is precisely what I love about it now, and why I experience so much like high potency when I am body to body with a person. But that also is because, you know, I've got a year of hands-on training from these like exceptional people stacked on top of about seven something thousand hours of facilitation under my belt. So I'm marrying those two together. So what I am doing when someone's on my table and what I'm now doing in verbal sessions as well is just so much more impactful and potent than it ever was before. That has everything to do with the training. That has everything to do with the experience. It mostly has to do with how I keep my own internal world. And it mostly has to do with my somatic state. And I'll just say, like, the hands-on training for the last year has been the thing that has called me into highest integrity about how I keep my own internal somatic state. I reorganized so many areas of my life, and specifically I had to reorganize my relationship to overwork, because I knew if I'm going to be putting my hands on bodies, if this isn't just, I'm not just talking about bodies anymore for a living, I am touching bodies for a living, which means their nervous system, the nervous system of this person that is now in an exceptionally vulnerable state on my table, their nervous system is going to seek resonance with the state of my nervous system. We're going to find co-regulation here no matter what. So I need to be very protective about how I am in this session, which means I need to be very protective of how I am all the time, because how I am outside of this session is how I'm going to be inside of this session. And so that's been the biggest thing. It's been, to really answer your question, it's been this fascinating growth in both areas in different ways, that the way I'm able to drop in and facilitate through a screen now is, good God. It's just night and day different. It's wild because of this hands-on training. And the way I am showing up in my hands-on work is just profoundly different than how, and what I'm going to say next is feedback I have received from not just fellow students I practice on, but now I've actually started, because I'm in clinic this quarter, I've started practicing on the people I have learned from my facilitators, from my teachers from this past year. And actually I just got feedback from one of them a couple of days ago, that she said, she actually told me she normally doesn't book sessions in the intern clinic because she's very protective, and students just learning, most people who are just learning how to touch bodies after a year, she's got a lot of trauma, a lot of stuff going on. But she had seen me, she was one of my lymphatic drainage instructors. And so she had seen me kind of in action in lymphatic drainage, and she felt very confident that I would be safe. And she knew my background too. And she told me afterwards that was not only, a great session, but it was one of the best sessions of body work she had ever received in her entire life. And I felt that too. I was like, that was one of my favorite / best sessions I felt like I'd ever given. And she told me specifically I was like, can you explain to me why? Like, why did you have that experience? And she said, I don't think I've ever had another session with another person where I felt them completely present with me 100% of the time that I was on their table. And then I immediately started crying, because not only is that absolutely what I am here to do, and absolutely what integrity looks like for me in a verbal session, in a hands-on session, in the combination of the two, not only is that like exactly what I'm aiming for, but oh my God, how far have I come? Because I know what it used to be like in my internal world. I know how hard it used to be for me to actually drop into full presence with another person. And it's the easiest thing in the world for me now. And it's the place I love the most. And when I'm able to do that, it creates the greatest impact in the experience that person is having, because it creates the greatest impact in the experience their nervous system, their body is having. And that's what I'm alive for, is just to tend to bodies. So that, yeah, there's just been, it's hard to even summarize. This is the first time I'm really talking through my answer to this question, because it's the first time I really thought through my answer to this question of like, how has the space I hold transformed over the last year in both of these ways? And there's like, I could talk for another like 45 minutes, I'm sure, but like, it's been profound. And in many ways, it feels like it's something that has happened to me and through me, as opposed to something that I have necessarily done.
Hmm. Thank you for sharing all of that, including like how it wasn't always easy for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because I think, like, as I listen to you tell this story, as well as when I've heard you in the past speak about like being in class and being so excited to learn, and you're like
Mm-hmm.
about the lymphatic system and about
Mm-hmm.
muscle systems, like, I feel excited for you and happy for you. And then I also notice, like, I, I would say like envy in terms of a longing for my past
Mm-hmm.
self,
Mm.
like the experience I had in medical school, in part because like I was so far away from an awareness of my body, and
Yeah.
the idea of being just so excited to learn about bodies,
Yeah.
and that being different than like excited to become a doctor, which
Sure.
sometimes was, though also terrified and like
Sure.
imposter syndrome, like how'd I get in, blah blah blah, all the stuff
Mm-hmm.
that like gets in the way.
Mm-hmm.
But even like I had no, I would apparently be like, the body's cool. Cause like, I mean, even if you're like very disembodied, like the body's rad. The
Body's
body
still
is
cool. Yeah.
here. But like the idea of redoing medical training with a lens of
Mm.
like with my body.
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
why, I mean, there's a future project we're working on, which I basically want to like be that.
Mm-hmm.
But like
Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm.
that, because it's like, but I also love hearing you doing that, because I love to know that that's possible for people, and like even just imagining what that would feel like, you
Mm.
know. And I am experiencing it more, like, so now understanding all of the reasons why it is hard to drop into presence with my patients,
Yeah.
and just like
Mm.
lovingly culling and
Mm-hmm.
showing, you know, and loving whatever version comes up each day. But like
Yes.
I feel similarly. So when I'm able to show up with a fulsome presence and be like, I'm a body, they're a body, and here we are, it's like freaking magic. And
It
it's
is.
not like, sometimes I think before, I like when people talk about mindfulness and stuff, I'd be like, well, good for you. Or like you think it's like a morally higher plane, or I don't know, something where you're like, I've got to
Mm-hmm.
get this skill too. But it's like
Mm-hmm.
it's work, but it's actually easier when you're in it,
Yeah.
and it feels amazing.
Yes.
I think, you know,
Yes.
versus like some pie. I used to, there's like a pious
Mm-hmm.
state.
Yeah, it's
And
not it's not doing, it's disappearing. It
oh, that's so, yeah, you're
Yeah.
doing less. You're
You're
doing
doing
less.
less. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
you have more
which is the
energy.
hardest part, is the trying to not do, which is why I was, I don't regret, and I am so proud of my younger self. She was doing her best and
Yeah,
she was
same.
doing so much. And at this
So
point,
much.
like, I know I am in integrity when I'm not doing anything at all. I told my partner actually recently, kind of in the aftermath of that session I just described to you, that was actually the second session following a first session. It was my first day in the clinic. And so the setup is like 90-minute session, 15-minute break, 90-minute session. Now, that's not normal. That's not my normal pace and how I move through the world. That will not be the pace of my practice in the future. And I was like, let's see how this goes. Let's find out. Let's see what happens. And I could have done 4 more, or at least 1 more. I don't know. I can't, at least another one, because I was like so revved up and so charged up. And I was telling my partner that, like, this sensation of like I could do more of this wasn't because I could do more of this technically. That sensation was because I was like, once all the, we're talking through the intake, which is like, also I can disappear for that too, because it's facilitation. But once I'm in this, oh my God, Joan, the sweet spot. I can't wait until I get to have you on my table someday. But like,
So good.
when we are like, when they're on the table and we are dropped in and my hands touch this body for the first time, it's like, I mean, I disappear. I disappear. I'm not doing anything. I'm not thinking. I'm not efforting. I'm just, my body just knows what to do. It feels like I am being moved. It feels like I am being like danced through by some greater force, in the ability to sense and know and be attuned to what the needs are of this body right here, right now, which is different from the potential needs of this person. And that's this fascinating line. I won't get into all of that right now, but like that, it very much feels like that difference between doing and disappearing. And that's why I feel so enormously energized after any session of any expression of my work now, versus the way I used to feel when I was in a very different mode of working and very much overworked and overworking, is because I don't feel like I'm doing it anymore. And now that's like it's a hard place to get to, because you kind of have to do a lot to get to the point of being able to not do very much. That's like, the path of learning and expertise. But yeah, it's just so much better. And the impact is so much greater when I'm not trying to create impact and I'm just dropping into presence.
Hello. That was the
Mm-hmm.
thing you just said there. Yeah. Yeah. Stop trying. And it actually kind of like, how often
Yeah.
is that just the story of like anything? Is like when I stop trying to do
Yes.
blah, that's the thing
That's
happens.
it.
It's just like
Yes.
it's the science. It's how it works.
That's it.
I was curious, the learning some of, maybe you knew some of the details, but you must have like learned new facts about the body over
Mm-hmm.
the past year, and details about how our bodies work, all the different anatomic bits and like how they all work together. How has learning more of the details of how bodies work, including your body,
Mm-hmm.
how has that changed your relationship to your body and other bodies?
Oh boy. Oh wow. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so
In 10 words or less, just kidding.
yeah, you know me. That's not possible.
That's me.
Well, it is possible apparently, because I can drop into a session for like 90 minutes with someone and not say a word. So yeah, but I think that would make for a very boring podcast if we did that. Just listen in to me doing body work for an hour. Okay, so man, your timing is incredible. I love this so much. So the main thing I will say, because there is so much I could say, but I'll just go with the first thing that came up. I Let's back up a little bit. So I years ago, I think in my like defensiveness, self-judgment and insecurity, very much was like a coach who would shit on other coaches, or really more just like a person who would seize any opportunity to like shit on any other person. And again, self-judgment and insecurity is what was going on there. And I I also understand now that the reality of judgment is that it always finds its roots in self-judgment. So whatever it is that we are looking at and evaluating in another human being and saying, if it triggers us, if it brings up dysregulation in us, a defensiveness in us, that is the surest indicator that there's something that we're trying to not look at within ourselves. So the thing that did that the most for me when I was first starting out as a facilitator was anyone who talked about vibration or frequencies. I was just like, you're full of now, mind you, I also was like a freshly recovering former religious person. And so anything that smelled of spirituality, anything that wasn't just like tangible, matter of fact, I was defensive and resistant to it. Gee, I wonder why. So, and it was really easy for me. I also had like the brain worms of like, too much Twitter and too much of like the former kind of, which I believe is fading now, thank goodness, but the very, very damaging impact of kind of like the cancellation culture and the call out culture and the like, you shouldn't be you, you should be me of it all that happens on the internet. And so all of that was just this soup that was causing me to be very judgmental and critical of anyone who is talking about vibrational frequency in the body. Now, this is not to say that that is sometimes used in a bypassing manner, whether that's spiritual bypassing, physical bypassing, whatever it might be. And just because a hammer can be used to smash someone's head in does not mean that we should get rid of all hammers for their actual intentional purpose, or that they're bad. It's like language is our best attempt to describe somatic states. And language can mean so many different things to different people. And just because something can be misunderstood or something can be misused does not make it automatically untrue. And no joke, from the beginning of my journey in massage therapy school, in my like first anatomy class, it was just like thing after thing after thing that I was learning about the actual material makeup of the body was confirming the fact that we are living matter that is vibrating at frequencies, because everything that is living matter is vibrating at a frequency. And it's not woo, it's just your nervous system. You have a nervous system. It's the state of your nervous system, which is impacted and affected by your mental and emotional state. The story you're telling yourself about the experience you're having determines how you literally feel in your body about the experience you're having, about your reality, which that's all, maybe the more emotional therapeutic language for whatever's going on in your mental and emotional world is going to alter the state of your nervous system. You're either going to be in this kind of along the spectrum of homeostasis of regulation in the nervous system, or you're going to dip outside of that spectrum of regulation into some version of dysregulation, again, either on the upregulation or the downregulation. But that's just going on. That's going on all the time. And when that's going on inside of a body, what's also happening is that the living matter that is created by living organisms, the living matter of your body, is vibrating at a specific frequency. And that it matters to understand that as a reality, because it matters to understand that as a reality, because I think one of the things that would really be beneficial for humans to remember is that the organizing principle of the universe is resonance. And you will find resonance with vibrational frequencies that are a match for the vibrational frequency that is occurring inside of your body. And that is there's so much I could unpack and say about that, but to make it really specific, I just remember being in my first anatomy class and learning about Meissner's corpuscles. And this is what started it for me. Honestly, it was just like, wait, there's cells in our bodies that their specific purpose is to like pick up vibrations. And I was like, wait, what? And so I had to and then oh my god, when you start touching bodies, all bets are off. My god, like of course you can feel, if you're tuned in, you can feel. And it started to get to this point where it was like, I have to change my mind and release my judgments about these ideas that made me uncomfortable, because the experience I'm having, what I'm both learning and the experience I'm having, is confirming to me that there is vibration happening here. And if there is vibration happening here, then I have to be open to this understanding of the nature of reality. And I have to be willing, oh man, this is the biggest thing. I have to be willing to be someone who like talks about it and sounds like all of those people I used to touch. That's the part I'm like sweating through right now. And just
You're
because
doing great.
Thank you. Because, my whole internal and external thing was like, those people are ridiculous. They're stupid. They're silly. They don't know what they're talking about. They're unscientific. They're whatever, fill in the blank. And so I am this season of my life, I'm in the active process of like working through that within my own self. And sometimes it feels scary. Mostly it just feels really good. It just feels really freeing to just admit that our bodies are vibrating organisms of living matter. And because they're vibrating organisms of living matter, we can actually affect and alter the vibrational frequency in our living matter based on what's going on in our mental and emotional and even spiritual world. And I don't think that's crazy. I just think it is. I just think it is.
It's so interesting that because it's like I can feel bits of like, oh, she's saying vibrations so much. Like most of me is
Mm-hmm.
not worried about it, but I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
because there's this I'm going to use the word woo, but it's like so pejorative and it's
Sure.
so
Yeah.
nothing. It's so nothing, actually. What do we mean when we say that? But, and also there are like actors out there that are like, use your vibrations to, I don't know. They're trying to sell you something. You know what I mean? So like
Mhm.
there's like all of that, and that's
Mhm.
all real too. But
Yeah.
then I was sitting there and I was like, vibrations, and I'm like open, I'm curious. And I was just like sitting with my fingers touching each other and like feeling my pulse
Yes.
and
Yes.
also
There you
feeling
go.
that like that thing, which, what else would you describe it but a vibration of how my fingers feel when they touch each other. And
Mhm.
it is not still and static. It is
Yeah.
oscillating, if you will, which
Homeostasis is a dynamic state, not a static
what are
one.
we saying if we're not
Yeah.
saying like it's buzzy, it's
Yes.
vibrational,
That's
is
right.
like the physics term you might use for it, if
Yeah.
you will, you know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
it's like, that's what I was like, she's gonna have such a good answer, because I think when the way you describe it, then I was experiencing it. And that's kind of, I think,
Yeah.
probably what's happening with your clients. And, that's
Mhm.
like the whole thing. Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yep. And I think until you have
exciting.
experienced it, it's what I'll say about that, those previous, when I was in judgment of hearing that, is because I had not directly experienced it or acknowledged that I had
Acknowledged.
experienced it. I was
Yeah.
more dissociated than I am now. And I think we like to believe that reality is this like objective unifying thing, and actually the nature of reality is exclusively subjective, because my reality is my somatic experience and your reality is your somatic experience. And so what was happening in me, I'll just own it, when someone would talk about vibration, frequencies, whatever, about the body, I'd be like, that's ridiculous. There's no way that's true. The subtext there is because I haven't felt it. So
Mm-hmm.
anytime anyone else might possibly receive hearing what I'm saying and reject or judge, it's likely because their lived experience has not given them the same information as my lived experience. But the fascinating thing is that doesn't mean that they get to say my lived experience is incorrect. That just
Yeah.
means that their lived experience is different. And I feel like the more, and this could be, I could have a confirmation bias of the circles I run in. I probably do. I think we all do. But the more I am holding space for people who are becoming more and more in tune with their body, they're doing the same thing as you, which is like, no, I feel something here. There is an animate aliveness that I am
Yeah.
sensing and feeling in my body, because of course there is.
Because
Of
they're
course
like,
there
I mean,
is.
it just literally is.
There
Like, there just
literally is. Yes.
really is.
Yeah.
And as someone who has like witnessed someone die, for example,
Mm-hmm.
there's a difference. It's
Yeah. What is a
very
pulse?
clear.
It's an electromagnetic energy surge. And it's,
Like
yes.
there's
Yes.
waveforms all over this place, So
Yes.
I think, I mean, that's what's happening. It's the
Mm-hmm.
whole deal. Like a pulse sticks
Yeah.
up. I won't get too far into it because I'm realizing the time, and we want to be
I would
honoring.
love for you to get into it though, if
I
we have the,
know.
because I
Well,
want to, yeah,
we shall in the
we
future.
shall. Yes, we
And
will.
one place we could is at our upcoming workshop on
Mm-hmm.
Monday, April 29th at 7:30 Eastern. So
Mm-hmm.
all are welcome, and the link will be below, and we'll be inviting you over the next couple of weeks, and excited for you to join us and do some like good learning, because that's, I mean, the main thing that I've learned is like, you can talk about it, but actually it
Mm.
is the experience of it. And
Yeah.
and I find that the way that you introduce embodiment, where it is still, especially like the workshop we have, it is still verbal
Mm-hmm.
first, but in
Mm-hmm.
community, it can be a much sort of safer entry point for people who are used to only thinking of themselves in like thought and verbal terms,
Yeah.
versus sometimes people hear like embodiment workshop and they're like, oh no, I'm gonna have to like do a weird interpretive dance. I'm putting all that in quotes because I like love doing that stuff now, but like that's, I was like, oh no, it's gonna be, you'll make me move my body. But we don't
Mm-hmm.
even like invite you necessarily to move your body in this.
Yeah.
It's more actually speaking to the experience of being a body.
Yeah.
And so I would describe that a little bit in hopes that that helps people make a decision if that's the kind of workshop they'd want to join, and just be a part of
Mm.
the conversation with us, because I think we are both in deep agreement that the more that the bodies who take care of the other bodies
Yeah.
are aware of their animate nature and
Mm-hmm.
aware of what they need to stay in the present, that's how you iron out the overwork, and that's how you
That's
like, it's
right.
like, the more I've become aware of my body, the more I've been like, oh no, I must slow down.
Yeah.
And everything inconvenient, but worth it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm not going to
Yeah.
win capitalism or whatever, but like I am more in touch with my body.
I am going to
And
have a better time here is
I'm
the thing. And do I
time.
want to win capitalism, or
No
do I want
thanks.
to like have a better feeling time here? Do I want to be right, or do I want to be happy? Do I want to be good, or do I want to be well? Like
Hello.
and I can't answer that question for anybody else. I can tell
No,
you what my answer is to that for sure, because I've tried both and this one feels better.
I'm into what feels better so much. And I think that's one
Mm-hmm.
thing that our relationship has given me like a very deep level of permission to like
Mm.
lead with and make the primary purpose. And that's just led to so much fun adventure so
Yeah.
far. So,
Yeah.
um,
I
thank
love
you.
that. Oh, that makes me so happy. And I'll just say the last thing about to that point of that, like, because what I hear you saying in that is like, I have started to care about how I feel. I've started to
Yes.
care about the experience I'm having in my body, the way my reality feels, care about how I feel. That's not soft. That's not irresponsible. That's not hedonistic. That is just an alternative way of saying I've started to care about the state of my nervous system. That's it. And nobody's going to fault you if you go, I've started to care about the state of my nervous system. They might bristle if you go, I've started to care about how I feel, because everyone's got stories attached to what they believe they are and are not allowed to do in their lived experience. But just to name, like, learning how to care about how you feel, how your body feels, and how that impacts and affects the way you move through your world is, if that language is sticky for anyone, then trade it out for the very functional nervous system language. I'm learning to start to care about the state of my nervous system and how it affects the way I move through the world.
Oh my God. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I will, because I've used the language of capacity and that's been
Yeah.
helpful. And so I'm adding that into my like lexicon
Yeah.
of just like, I'm noticing whatever is impacting the state of my nervous system. And I'm really paying close attention to the state of my nervous system these days.
People
I
have
think I might use
so
that with
much.
patients actually. I
Yeah.
think
Oh, yes.
that would
Yes.
be really good for
Well,
patients.
and then it would be good for them to bear witness to someone doing that in front of them, because then it releases them into greater permission to do that for themselves. So
Yes.
that's something too. Practitioners and facilitators, we are not just protecting our own selves, we are also modeling a way of
Yeah.
being for the people who are occupying the role of patient or client in those moments that we're working with them. It's really profound. It's really profound
Hugely
work.
therapeutic for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Which that's what we're there for, is to offer a
Exactly.
therapeutic relationship with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Actually, thank you so much. You're amazing.
I love being here with you. I love doing anything I get to do with you, which is why I am so excited for this workshop. I mean, like you said, our first round was, I think about it constantly. I think about it all the time. Just the power that was in that room, just the tenderness that was in that room, the vulnerability, the impact, the breakthrough. I've gotten to work one-on-one with a few of the people who are in that space, and just being able to just kind of see what happened there, just watch that seed grow more, just watch that work go even deeper. I'm so excited to do this with you on April 29th.
April 29th, everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. And yeah, just like watch for future collaborations with Jamie and I, because this isn't the last time
Oh
you'll be able
yeah.
to hear us talking
Mm-mm.
for sure.
Definitely not. Mm-hmm.
And in the meantime, I will talk to everyone next week. Okay. Just kidding. We're not. Now we're going to say goodbye in a minute. But we realized after we stopped recording that I forgot to do an important step, which is for those of you where this is the first time you're hearing of Jamie. Jamie, how can people find you? How can people work with you on top of coming to the workshop on April
Mm-hmm.
29th?
Yes, yes, yes. Well, I exist on all spaces that I exist on online, which actually is pretty much just Instagram these days, thank goodness. But I'm on Instagram, Jamie Lee Finch. I'm also on Substack. That is the place I do the vast majority of my long form writing, and I really love it. Also, Jamie Lee Finch over there as well. And if anyone is currently interested or curious about possibly looking into what it might look like to work with me one-on-one, I do currently have availability for that as well. And you can reach out to me at hello@jamieleefinch.com, the email, if that feels good, or DM me on Instagram.
Amazing. Thanks,
Mm-hmm.
Jamie.
Great.
Okay, bye for real.